In his Millennial Money program, Robert Kiyosaki holds valuable financial education lessons, and today we're going to talk about how the rich do not work for money. Wanna know how? Stay tuned, we're going to tell you everything now. We all know that our teachers know nothing about money, and it hurts people's lives, because after graduation, people start looking for a job, the investor says. When Robert Kiyosaki was 9 and lived in Hilo in Hawaii, his rich dad began to teach him, because Robert asked his 4th grade teacher about what they were going to learn in the subject of money. They told Kiyosaki they didn't have one in the curriculum. The investor thought it was ridiculous, because how can you study and find a job without knowing anything about money? Robert's teaching method aim is to make a person doubt himself, question a person's belief system. Perhaps later a person is going to believe in something else, Robert says. Robert Kiyosaki learned the lesson of his wealthy dad that the rich do not work for money. He thought he had a stable job, he made good money, but the question that Robert kept asking himself was, what's next? It's the point when education is required the most. Financial literacy is about not working for money. One of the questions that Robert asked his rich dad was, when are you not going to need a salary? Kiyosaki wasn't gonna go to the moon or treat cancer. He only wanted to figure out the point at which he won't need a salary. Thus, when Robert was 25, his goal became to never need a salary from no one, even from the state. He didn't need healthcare, social security, military pilot's pension. Then Robert said, get your pension yourself. He didn't need it. The difference was that he never wanted to work for money and get a salary. Now, let's move on to the lesson. The fundamental mistake that people make is that people go and study to find a job. Number 1 is expenditures in taxes. Robert noted that President Trump recently reduced taxes, but if you go into details here, taxes were not reduced for ordinary people. It's the rich who write the rules. They are dictated by the rich. Kiyosaki said, the golden rule is, whoever has the gold makes the rules. Therefore, taxes were reduced for these people. That's what Robert works for. He's an entrepreneur. He has various businesses. Then there's real estate. Next is the paper, stocks, bonds, mutual and index funds, and so on. Robert realized he had nothing of the kind, but this is what most educated people with jobs have. And finally, there are commodities, various assets like gold, silver, oil, earth, water, food. That's what Robert works for. When Kiyosaki dropped out of school, he had to study harder than just find a job, instead of working for the salary and money. He had a good job then, but as he dropped out, the first thing he focused on was commodities. In 1972, Robert began to buy gold. He started with gold, and then it was oil. And this was all about taxes, as there are no tax breaks on oil ownership on paper, but there are substantial tax breaks on possessing real oil. Then Robert went into real estate because he could use borrowed funds to buy it. And if he uses a loan, he doesn't pay taxes. Finally, Robert set up his first ever business. It was nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. Kiyosaki immediately went global, but there was an issue. The entrepreneur admitted he was an idiot as the company grew and then fell apart. And it's real estate and commodities that helped him survive. Robert doesn't need a so-called salary, he needs cash flow. That's what he means when he says that the rich do not work for money. Kiyosaki needs a cash flow from which he pays little tax, and he can also use a large amount of borrowed funds. Average educated people have huge student loans. Such a burden, Robert believes, is the worst form of debt because it's impossible to declare bankruptcy on it. Then you can try and buy a house and call it an asset, but in fact it's a liability, Kiyosaki argues, because money flows in that direction. Your house costs you money, the same thing with the rental. Then, for example, you need a good car. Robert believes that the problem with most people is that they study, they look for a job, many of them have student loans, and later they get married and buy a house and a car, and in the end they go overdrawn. They have no chance of moving this way. When they say that the rich do not work for money, Kiyosaki means that they don't want to depend on a salary, neither from the employer nor from the state. He always wanted to be a free man. The rich do not work for money, money works for them. Therefore, the primary purpose of this lesson is that the rich do not work for money. Robert Kiyosaki has never worked for a salary. He wants to use loans and to pay little or no taxes. Do you go along with Robert, or do you think he's mistaken? We value your opinion, so please leave your comment, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on the notifications not to miss the fascinating videos. That's it for today.